Thanks for checking out my micro drawings channel. Happy Halloween. Here I'm drawing from Charlie Brown, the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown. The scene out in the pumpkin patch where Linus and Sally are waiting, and Lucy in the green mask and Charlie Brown in the multi-hold ghost costume come out to check in on them. So that's what I've got going here. Again, happy Halloween, and thanks for visiting the channel. Please subscribe and share if you haven't. I'm getting started here with Sally. Started with her forehead and her nose, and then getting to the little bow in her hair. And I'll continue to work around her head, getting her hair in there, marking where her ear is, and just let you watch here for a little bit. And since they're in a pumpkin patch, I will not have to draw the bottom part here. I'm just giving the midway through with Sally down. You'll be able to see her legs a little bit. And then I'm moving on to Linus and working on his head and nose and getting him drawn in there. They're both looking over up to Lucy, of course, and just bringing his head around there. Wasn't totally happy with how his head was going here, but with the wispy hair, I think it ended up going okay. Just wasn't quite certain there on the shape of the head, and but just kind of worked through it. I'm sure many of you that do some drawing, sometimes you have part of it that you're not totally happy with, but you just kind of move forward with it anyways. There's the quarter for scale. So I've got Sally done, Linus's head in there. And then I'll continue to work down on his body. And my understanding is Bill Watterson, from Calvin and Hobbes creator, that he was a big fan of Peanuts, Charlie Brown, Charles Schulz, and that's why Calvin's shirt is a red striped shirt, just like Linus's will be in this picture. There's the top of a pumpkin that is blocking Linus's body. A different one will block Sally's body. So I'll let you watch. So I've got Linus how I want him pretty much. I'll go over here and work on the pumpkin that's blocking the lower part of Sally's body. That'll also give me my reference point for Lucy, who I'll draw in next. She's got the pointy red hat on. There I'm starting to put some leaves in the ground surrounding the pumpkins, and just kind of here and there, adding the leaves, kind of rounded leaves. There's not a super amount of detail in there. When I do get to the coloring part, I'll use 4 different colors of green just to give a little variation in the color. I don't think I mentioned it here yet, but that's a Copic Multiliner 0.03. There I'm putting in Lucy's hat brim, and I always like to look for lines that I'm seeing. Like I started with Sally's forehead and nose. With Linus, same thing, and then brought his head around. In this case, I'm using the brim of Lucy's hat to give me the starting point, and then from there I'm working down with the mask, the little wart on the end of the mask. And I hope you can appreciate the size here. I give that quarter for scale. I know we don't use coins as much as we used to, but hopefully everybody has that for a good reference point. At the end of the video, if you hang on here, I will use some different candy since it's Halloween evening, and I'll show you some different scale items that way. And there's Lucy's black hair at the back. And then I'll move on, and once I get her hat in here, better get that down. There we go. Pretty simple. And then I got to get Charlie Brown in here in his poor costume. Poor Charlie Brown. Always something going on. So there I'm just putting the multiple eye holes, because it's tough making a ghost costume out of a bed sheet, I guess. So, and then pretty soon I'll move on to my Copic sketch markers. Again, just putting in the background. There's another little pumpkin back there and some leaves. And just to balance it out a little bit, I'll go over to the right side and add a little bit more. You know, different elements of art and design. I'm not a professionally trained artist, but I think if you look at something and you get a feel that it's off balance, or if it's weighted one way too much, you can fix that sometimes by adding additional items to a drawing. So I'm moving on to a coloring with the Copic sketch markers. With each part here, I will show you the color that I'm using. So if you do want to recreate this and you have your Copic sketch markers, you'll be able to do so. So please enjoy watching here, and I'll join up again in a little bit. Here you'll notice as I'm working with the marker that I have to rotate the paper. Sometimes with this small drawings, with the micro drawings, to get that not the chisel point, that's the wrong end. This fine tip point, to get that in the right spots, I need to rotate the paper just so I get it aligned. A lot of that has to do with the position relating to my phone that is recording this. So have to make sure I get it rotated, keep it in line with the camera so you can see what I'm doing here. So again, using the Copic sketch markers, these sketch markers are waterproof and acid-free, and the paper I'm using, it's a Canson Bristol XL Smooth 100 with a fine tooth, so it doesn't really soak up a lot of ink. You can have very good control when you're using these products together. So the Copic Multiliner, the Copic sketch marker, and the Canson XL Smooth, they're all acid-free. right, I'm getting to the pumpkin plant leaves now, and I mentioned earlier that I'm going to use multiple different colors of green, trying to give a little more depth to them, or 3D effect, I guess, or interest at least. So I started, had a little yellow, light yellow, yellow green, and I'll show the colors as I go here, but just kind of fun to put a little additional detail here. Some of my micro drawings are very small and just one character, so every once in a while it's fun to do a little larger drawing here. Still very micro, but just putting this many characters together leads to a little larger size altogether. Thanks again for visiting the channel. All right, so there's the quarter for scale. You can see I'm outside of that quarter a little bit, but I'd still consider it a micro drawing. And here I'm going to use the Copic Multiliner, just adding a couple additional outlines, some veins on the leaves a little bit, and just some finer detail, final pieces of detail, I guess, that I'd like to put in there. So then I'll put on today's date, 10/31 of 2021, and a little happy Halloween here. And again, hope you've enjoyed watching this. Stay tuned, and I'll get the candy for some additional reference or scale for you. All right, so I've got it zoomed out, and not sure what happened with the lighting there, but there's a little whopper, a little pack of 3, so you can see how small the drawing is. There's a single Jolly Rancher. Of course, you see my hands in the quarter for scale as well. So, and there's one of the teeny little milk dud treats to give out. Again, subscribe and please share if you haven't. Happy Halloween.